Hey guys, before we start, a massive shout out to our saber shop, Fantasy Sabers. It's the first link in the description. Please check it out and buy your very own high quality sabers from replicas, Padawans, and many more. In Revenge of the Sith, Chancellor Palpatine revealed his true identity as Darth Sidious to Anakin, hoping to seduce him to the dark side. In the original timeline, Anakin left Palpatine's office to tell Mace Windu of the news he had learned, as he was the highest ranking Jedi on Coruscant at the time. But Windu never trusted Anakin. This was obvious to everyone. So what if instead of Windu, Anakin told his wife Padme? Let's start today's story as Anakin flies back to his apartment on Coruscant. In his heart, Anakin knew that telling Padme was the correct decision. She trusts and loves him the most out of anyone, and due to the dogmatic Jedi code, she's the only person whom he can fully confide in. As he storms through the door, completely alarming Padme, and she knew immediately something was wrong. He tells her everything. How Palpatine is the Sith Lord, and how he knows about their marriage, and how he has orchestrated the Clone Wars. Padme is absolutely shocked, and fear trickles down her spine. Her first thought is to her unborn child. What could the repercussions have on them? Thoughts spun through both of their minds. Anakin's anger was rising at the second. Palpatine knew they were married, which immediately places his wife's life in danger. Palpatine may try to harm her or expose their relationship to the Senate, completely ruining their career. At this point, he wasn't thinking about himself. He didn't care what happened to him as long as Padme was safe. But then he thought, Palpatine said he had the knowledge to save Padme's life. Anakin dropped to his knees. His mind was racing. Padme asked what was wrong, and the Chosen One repeated his thoughts. He explained that Palpatine had told him he could save her from his nightmares, the ones where she dies. As he says this, his wife immediately shakes her head. This is not what she wants. He will not give himself over to evil to save her from some fictitious dream. She employs Anakin to think of their child, to think of his mother, even Qui-Gon. This is not what any of them would have wanted. He knew that she was right, but Anakin couldn't imagine his life without her. Padme tells Anakin they need Obi-Wan's assistant. This goes way beyond their relationship and personal desires. The future of the Republic is at stake. Anakin agrees, and they call Obi-Wan, who has just successfully killed Grievous on Utapau. His old master picks up the comlink call, and the duo tell Kenobi everything. Obi-Wan does find out everything, but also Padme and Anakin's relationship, which the master did admit he had inclinations about. The most important thing Obi-Wan stresses to Anakin is not to do anything without consulting the council. Although Anakin was desperate to save Padme, and his hatred for Palpatine was increasing, Padme and Obi-Wan ensured that he didn't do anything stupid. The chances that Palpatine was lying to him are high. Kenobi and Skywalker call an emergency council meeting where Anakin tells them that Palpatine is the Sith Lord. He doesn't mention anything about Padme, and nor does Obi-Wan, which did go against his morals, but he knew that he could bend his beliefs for his best friend. Windu would tell the council that those on Coruscant must go and arrest the Sith Lord before it's too late. This was the same inner thoughts as in Revenge of the Sith, but it was that decision that contributed to the fall of the Jedi. Yoda interjects, saying that they can't go now. There is no evidence except Anakin's word against Palpatine. In a Republic court, Palpatine would be set free. Windu, enraged, say they would just kill him, but Yoda immediately shuts him down, ordering his patience.
Hey guys, before I continue, I'd just like to shout out my saber shop, Fantasy Sabers, where we do high quality replica sabers as well as many unique saber designs. There are RGB or NeoPixel sabers available, the best on the market. Make sure to comment on this video your favorite saber to go in the draw to win a replica, the Sun Saber, marking the first month of our release. The sabers we're showing off this month are Dark Wolf, Kingsguard, and Void Blade, our favorites from the Padawan collection. These are all available in NeoPixel options, and make sure to check them out in the description. Now back to the video.
The Grand Master orders every council member who is off-world to return to Coruscant immediately, leaving their clone commanders in charge of their campaigns. This was the most important mission any of them would ever embark upon. As they return to Coruscant, the others need to gather evidence of Palpatine being the Sith Lord. Initially, their evidence would be basic notions of facts. Anakin would tell Padme and Bail everything that Palpatine told him, recounting their entire conversation, though lying and leaving out the parts with Padme, something that couldn't be exposed for now. This was an extremely important part of the case and something that could derail Palpatine's defense. Obi-Wan would also recount what Dooku told him on Geonosis about how the Sith Lords are in control of the Senate, which now he only realized referred directly to Palpatine. The council even included how they had been sensing the rising darkness in the Senate for years, and it was centralized in the Chancellor. As Windu and Kenobi continue their search for evidence, Ahsoka would contact Obi-Wan and say that she has successfully captured Maul. This was perfect. Maul knew firsthand that Palpatine was Sidious, and if he outed him in front of the entire Senate, there was no chance of denial. In the original timeline, Maul escapes around this period as Order 66 is executed, but in this story, that doesn't happen. This means that Maul is successfully brought to Coruscant by Ahsoka, and subsequently held by the Jedi. He would be their best evidence. They kept it hidden until his arrival on Coruscant, so no one would find out. As the entire Jedi Council returns to Coruscant, along with Ahsoka and Maul, they finally gather every little detail of evidence. The Jedi believe they have enough to arrest Palpatine for good. At once, all 12 of them go to his office where Palpatine stands in defiance. He knows he can't fight all 12 of them, including Yoda and Anakin. It would be a certain death. This means that he would accept his arrest and move on to Plan B. After the Chancellor's arrest by the Jedi, an unprecedented event that had never happened in the history of the Republic, the Senate would be informed. This was a massive deal, and it seemed as though everyone was talking about it. With his arrest, one of the largest court cases in galactic history would begin. The Jedi Order versus the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic. The winner of this case would remain in power. Senators Padme Amidala and Bail Organa would act on behalf of the Jedi Order, whereas Palpatine elected to represent himself. He believed that he was best qualified for this. No one could twist words as good as he could. Padme would begin the trial with the opening statement. She welcomes the senators and all in attendance, and thanks the courts and judges. Everyone knew the enormity of what was about to ensue. It was history in the making. Padme discusses how the Jedi have been loyal servants of the Republic for over 1,000 years. They have no reason to lie or deceive anyone. In the millennia of their protection over everything, there has never been an accusation against them, indicating the desire to take control over everything. She explains that for months, the Jedi have been sensing the rising darkness surrounding the Chancellor. At first, the Council believes something simply was shady about him. Perhaps he was working with the Separatists, engaging in corrupt dealings, or simply becoming tired after years of war. But as fate would have it, they were wrong. The fact Chancellor Palpatine is a Sith Lord. As cries ring out throughout the chamber, Padme assured them that the Republic law states nothing about being a Sith Lord. But because of this title of Sith, Palpatine has played a vital role in orchestrating the Clone Wars, pillaging worlds, slaughtering Republic soldiers and Jedi, and murdering billions of innocent beings. Those are the heinous crimes he is charged with, and in league with Count Dooku. Padme conveys that there is no coincidence that Palpatine was able to remain in power far longer after his term expired. Everything he has done is to keep control over his power. She also reminds the courts of Palpatine's rise to power, rising specifically from a vote of no confidence which he himself called for, to put himself in control of the Republic. And with that, she sits down, allowing her powerful words to resonate with the Senate and citizens of the Republic. Their evidence was incredible, and many senators believe them. But then Palpatine takes a stand. He first rebuttals against Padme and Organa's points. He says that he has been in power not because of some hunger for control, but because he has served the Republic with dignity and effectiveness. He was asked to continue. It wasn't like he stood before everyone and begged for another term. This was placed upon him, not the other way around. He then asked the arena a rhetorical question: if any senator had ever felt like he was acting in his own interests. Everything he has ever done was for the Republic. Even when he was given emergency powers to enact the clone army, he gave them back right after. If he was power hungry, then he would have kept them. The senators nodded their head in agreement. He was getting through to them. Palpatine would speak further, calling for logic. It is impossible for him to have a secret persona hidden from everyone. Finally, he turned it back to the Jedi, saying that they are the ones who have done this. The war has changed them, turned them into villains. Palpatine believes that the Jedi are more than a threat to the Republic than the Separatists. The Jedi were once protectors of peace and justice when he was a boy on Naboo. But over the last decade, they have turned into soldiers, political animals who only want to increase their power and control over the Republic. Sadly, many senators nod their heads. The Jedi have changed. Everyone knew it. Padme would come back to the stand where she called witnesses and testimonies. Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi stands before everyone. He was a trusted and respected Jedi. He explains how at the beginning of the Clone Wars, Count Dooku told him that the Sith were in control of the Senate. It only dawned on them now how literal he was being. The Sith are the Chancellor. The Jedi didn't believe Dooku as one naturally wouldn't, but his words were the truth. The best lies hold truth to them. Next, Anakin Skywalker explained to everyone that Palpatine told him himself that he was the Sith Lord in his office. That is how everything began. After learning of his true identity, Anakin informed the council who arrested him. It isn't more complicated than that. The Chancellor literally told Anakin. This made everything more confusing for the senators. They all loved Palpatine. That's why he had been in power for so long. People believed he was the best Chancellor in galactic history. But Anakin had been deified in the Republic. He was the most popular Jedi in the galaxy. The hero with no fear. The poster boy for the Jedi Order. Everyone felt the utmost respect and love for him. He was almost separated from the Jedi because at this point, the Jedi were bad. They were untrustworthy. But Anakin was a completely different story. This led to turmoil in the arena as people wrestled with all the knowledge and moral implications they were dealing with. Palpatine would dispute these claims once again. As for Dooku, he couldn't say anything about that, only that it was Count Dooku who took him captive only days earlier. If he was working with him, why would he be taken hostage? It didn't make any sense. Palpatine also found convenience in the fact that Jedi were relying on messages Dooku told them just after he was slain, so no one could confirm their claims. Palpatine then explains that he is heartbroken that Anakin would tell these lies. He thought of him as a close friend and ally, but apparently not. His demeanor had shifted to sadness, and as the Jedi looked around the arena, they saw some senators drop their gaze, implying sympathy. This wasn't working. Things weren't going their way. Palpatine looks at Anakin and Padme whilst thinking. He knew after Anakin took the stand in favor of the Jedi, there was no chance of turning him to the dark side. Because of this, he must use all of his knowledge to protect himself. The Chancellor explains that Anakin and Padme are married, and that Skywalker is the father to her children. He knows this because Anakin himself told him. Everyone gasped and the Jedi looked directly at Anakin. This was a major dent in their case, not only because it took away from the words the Jedi was saying, but simply because it destroyed their credibility. Palpatine supported his points with evidence of images with the lovers together. Palpatine had these images taken a long time ago in case he needed to expose them. As the Senate began booing them, Anakin and Padme were forced to sit down and sit the rest of the trial out. From here, there were more discussions back and forth. Bail Organa stepped up and took over from Padme, delivering all of the remaining arguments. Massa Media testified on Palpatine's behalf, saying he never saw any shady activity. Though this is a ploy, since Amida did know the Chancellor's true identity. There were also a few more testimonies for the Jedi, but the bulk of the evidence had been delivered. As they took a break for a couple of hours, whilst the senators discussed how they were feeling and what side they were leaning against, the Jedi knew they were losing. Bail Organa would quickly get a roundup of how the senators were currently feeling, with roughly 75% believing Palpatine over the Jedi. Everything changed when Palpatine outed Anakin and Padme's relationship. If Anakin and Padme lied about this, what else could they be lying about? The council quickly convened with Organa, and he knew that now was the time to play their trump card. They go and collect Maul. It took a lot for Maul to protest in favor of the Jedi, but he was offered a full pardon from the Jedi for all of his crimes, so that he could start fresh, but also revenge against his old master, who took everything from him and killed his brother. It was fear that initially stopped him, but once the promises of a full pardon for his crimes, the Sith was convinced. This was something they knew the Senate wouldn't like, but in their eyes, Palpatine was a far larger threat than Maul. The senators return to the arena and continue the trial. When it is the Jedi's final time to take the stand, Organa introduces their final witness, Darth Maul. The entire arena gasps. He is a war criminal and one of the most dangerous men in the galaxy. Nobody even knew that he had been captured. Organa introduces him, though there was no need. Everyone knew who it was. Bail explains that the Jedi arrested him during the siege of Mandalore 3 days prior. Maul stands in front of the entire arena, his demeanor cold, especially as he lay eyes on Palpatine. He felt fear turn into sweat as he viewed his old master. He remembered back to Mandalore when he almost died, and even further to his childhood as he was tortured by the treacherous man. Maul tells the entire arena that the Chancellor is the Sith Lord. He trained with him for 2 decades alone and knew everything. Palpatine quickly interrupts, something he isn't allowed to do, but he was caught off guard. Maul was destroying everything he worked for. He knew he shouldn't have taken him prisoner on Mandalore and instead should have killed him like he did the Dathomirians. Palpatine yells at the senators, asking if they are going to believe the word of a war criminal who has murdered millions. But then Maul shuts him down, saying to the crowd that they don't have to believe him, but he is telling the truth. Maul simply explains his life story and everything that has transpired in so much detail that it is impossible to deny. The senators were being swayed. They couldn't believe what was happening. Palpatine was a Sith Lord, and he created this war to further his gain. Palpatine's reaction to the reveal of Maul was also so erratic that everyone knew he was telling the truth. He turned into a mad dog, his true colors revealed. When it came time for voting, the Jedi were successful, and Palpatine was arrested and sentenced to multiple lifetimes in prison. Palpatine is sent to prison, being locked in the highest facility on Coruscant with 0 chances of ever escaping. Days after his arrest, it was clear to everyone that he was the Sith Lord, because the entire Separatist army had collapsed. Without Dooku and Palpatine, everything failed. Sand Hill attempted to take control, but after quick losses on almost every battlefront without the lead of Sidious or Dooku, they lost. The Separatists would concede only 2 weeks after Palpatine's trial, and the Republic win the Clone Wars. The Jedi Council convene after their victory. After congratulating each other, Anakin Skywalker is summoned to the center. They discuss what Palpatine mentioned during the trial. Anakin lowers his head. He doesn't want to lie anymore, especially since his wife will almost give birth. He says that it is true. He is married to Padme and she is pregnant with their child. The council is displeased, having already believed Palpatine, but thankful that Anakin admitted his flaws. Windu believed that Anakin should leave the Order. He has broken the code and it almost cost the Jedi everything. But Plo Koon and Kenobi stepped up, explaining Anakin's remarkable feats in the Clone Wars and more notably, in the last month, by bringing Palpatine to justice. The other council members, including Yoda, agreed with them, and ultimately, Anakin would be allowed to remain in the Jedi Order. The following day, Padme would give birth to Luke and Leia, and a family discussion would dictate that they aren't going to be trained in the Jedi Order. This was a large decision, but one that the Skywalkers felt was going to be best for their family. Anakin and Padme were happy. Their relationship was now public and both of their careers remained strong. But the most important thing to them was that their family was safe and Luke and Leia would be raised on Coruscant with dignity and kindness. The future was bright, and with Palpatine defeated, the Republic would enter an era of peace that would last for generations to come.
Ignite your imagination with fantasy sabers.
If you enjoyed today's video, you must watch What If Anakin Jumped After Padme in Attack of the Clones, and What If Anakin Told the Council About His Marriage to Padme. Please check out our saber shop, Fantasy Sabers, for the largest collection of replicas, Padawan sabers, and many more. The link is first in the description. Thank you all for watching, and may the Force be with you.